several custom sonic screwdrivers.
That's cool.
And they're amazing, every single one of them. And I'm just like, how do you do this? Just, just interesting. And he's so young, too. That's the most disgusting part.
Well, hey, everybody out there. We've been live for the last 20 seconds or so.
I really didn't notice this stuff.
Yes.
Where are the screwdrivers?
Yeah, sonic screwdrivers. So it's talking about custom sonic screwdrivers.
Yeah.
My friend Aaron, not Aaron Harvey, different Aaron, makes, and he made me a custom lightsaber hilt, and
Awesome.
it's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. But hey, we're not here to talk about Star Wars or Doctor Who, as cool as both of those are, But yeah, we're here to talk about the season finale of Star Trek Discovery. So thank you. Welcome everybody who's live with us in the comments. Welcome to everybody who's watching us later. And as usual, me and Brandy are here to talk. Wait, what's down there? What's going on?
No, it's all right. It's all right. I can do my own thing. I'll just do some reading.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, what crazy random happenstance.
Look at that guy.
Who is that guy? Bruce. It's Bruce. Bruce,
I am the queen.
You
Bruce
are
is
a
the queen.
Yes. Absolutely a queen. And you should be worshipped as such.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be very benevolent.
So yeah, welcome everyone, and welcome Bruce back to the fold. We had a brief bit with you last week, but I'm so happy you've joined us for the show this week to talk about the finale. So yay, excellent.
Yeah, I mean, when it came on last week, I just decided, well, I'll just stick around for a week, and then I've been sitting here the whole time waiting.
Yeah, it's a little weird every time I turn on my computer and you're just sitting there kind of staring at me. It's a little odd, but I got used to it over the course of the last week. And
I got used to seeing the stuff that you do. It's a little odd, but I got used to it.
Yeah. Shoot, I thought I turned the camera off. Okay, well, anyway, so we're here to talk about That Hope Is You Part 2. So we finally got that elusive second part of that first episode of the season. So Bruce, I know this is something that you have been talking about all season, going, where's part 2? Where's part 2? What's going on with part 2? Well, Bruce, finally, you can relax. We got it.
Yes, finally I can watch part 1, and immediately when I finish part 1, watch part 2, and it will make sense.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend that.
No, I would. I want to see how that turns out.
Well, really, actually, they're really. I mean, they bookend, the season, but part 2 doesn't really play off of part 1 directly. It's just the last episode of the season. You would think in some ways they would have done something in there that kind of is a callback to part 1 or something. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, she's literally being the one to reconnect the Federation with its far-flung planets. So
it would be like the Phantom Menace is episode 1, and then the Rise of Skywalker is episode 2. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's some middle stuff in there that we definitely need to have taken a look at, I think.
But it's fun. Yeah. It's fun. I'm still looking for Unification 1 and 2 in Discovery. There's a 3. I don't know.
It's just, That Hope Is You Part 1 and Part 2 are the bread, and we have 11 other layers in there.
This is our Discovery sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
It's delicious.
This is bad. I'm going to keep doing this because I didn't put anything in my hair, and it's so long right now, you guys. It's like tucked away in like various ways. And I know, Brandy, you're giving me a look, but I am not used to long hair. I have never had long hair. So you have years of experience with this. I'm like, what the heck is this? What? Anyway, sorry.
No, I'm not even thinking about your hair. I'm thinking about Dave's hair. You ought to see Dave's hair if you think that yours is long. Oh, no. He's just kept growing it out because the last time he got his haircut was before quarantine, and he's just been letting it grow this entire time. It's his protest hair grow out, his
Nice.
COVID-19 protest grow out. And he's gone past the point of literature professor, and I'm not 100% sure where he is now. He's kind of in between literature professor. Why do I keep saying professor? I don't know.
Why did your accent keep changing? Nobody does
Right.
that.
It's inconsistent, Brandy.
Nobody
Yes.
does that.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So yes, yeah, that. Anyway, his hair long. Yeah.
I'm just I'm calling up a photo, and some people in the chat have already brought this up, but I'm going to share a picture.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I saw that. I saw that.
So there you go. I kind of just went like this at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh man, okay, this needs a picture. So anyway.
Oh, honey, you don't even know.
We'll get rid of that now.
At the end of the show, we'll just push our hair forward.
There you go.
Mine's all pinned down, so I can't really do that. But if it were down, I could be cousin it. So,
I'm not at cousin it levels, but my wife did suggest I could cosplay as Londo Mollari from Babylon 5.
You know what? You're gonna need some strong gel to do that. You're gonna need strong gel and a flat iron.
I'll be Thing.
Oh man.
Okay.
What are we, 7 minutes in? We are completely off the rails.
What are we talking about again?
Is that not the usual when it's all three of us together?
I knew I should have.
What it is. It is what it is. Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the episode then. So we're on week 23 of 23 weeks of Trek for those of us in Canada and the US. Outside of that, Lower Decks is coming soon to a bunch of you. So yay, that's awesome. But so 23 weeks of Trek, I have to say, have really helped me through this whole situation. And first thing I want to talk about is it hit me hard when the episode was over and I came to that realization. I was like, oh wait, there's no episode next week. So I don't know, did that hit you guys as hard as it did me? Because
both times I watched it. Yeah, both times I watched it. It was over, and I was crying for like 5 minutes after it was over. So I was crying through most of the episode, let's be honest, because it's me. So it was. I was just like, but there's no more. There's no more. And that weighed heavy on my heart. And then I remembered, I can rewatch it. And that will help. So
yeah, absolutely.
I look forward to doing that.
I didn't feel that weight because, to Brandy's point, I was like, oh, great. Now we know all the answers. We know how the season wrapped up, and I was happy with it. I'm like, I can't wait to go back and rewatch it, knowing what I know. So
we'll pick up on things that we didn't pick up on the first time, just going through week by week. Right. I know that will happen. I know.
Absolutely.
Yes. And also, to Dave's point, I did also finish Cobra Kai the same day.
Oh, yeah.
The entire series?
Well, I kept up with it, and then the current season, I finished it, the last episode of the season of Cobra Kai. And I was very satisfied with the ending of that one, too.
Nice.
Well, we're just barely finishing season 1, so we're a bit behind. But then there has been a lot of stuff going on for us during the week. So
I have not been watching Cobra Kai, unfortunately. I am watching The Expanse. Mossy brings up here. I'm still, I don't know why I'm just not finding the time. I'm sure I will now that, we're not talking about Discovery and doing all this and watching that. I've only watched the first 2 episodes of season 5 so far, so I'm a bit behind. And every time I see like new episode today, I'm like, oh God, I got to get caught up. So
It's okay. Well, see, the thing is that they released the first 3 episodes on the same day. So you're not as behind as you think you are as far as actual weeks of release.
That's
But
true, yeah.
we watched
I'm
episodes.
not even past the first week. Maybe I'm further behind than I thought because I'm
No,
not
you're
even
fine.
done the first week yet.
You're gonna be fine. It's fine. But we just watched episode 6 today, which is the most recent episode, and I'm enjoying. I always enjoy the show. I always enjoy that show. I love science fiction, and I really am enjoying also still reading the books, even though I have watched this much of the series, because I like seeing how unbelievably well they adapted those stories for television, which is not always the case when you are adapting some existing property like a comic or a book to a television show. Doesn't always go well. This time it did.
Absolutely.
My microphone just keeps sinking lower and lower. Can you guys hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It just doesn't want to stay in place tonight, and I do not know why. Why are you down there? Why? Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's a good mic. So
It's me. I'm down here.
yes.
All right.
It's thinking to you. It wants to be with you, Bruce.
Yeah,
That's the
I've been
There
like
you go.
slowly taking your mic and trying to put down here.
It almost feels like that.
All right. Well, let's jump into the episode then, because there is a lot to talk about in this episode. So, where do you guys want to start? Do you guys want to start on the Kelpian ship, the crash ship, or do you want to talk about Discovery first? Choose your own adventure. Which way are we going here?
I don't know, because it's kind of, we started on the Kelpian ship in the episode, so let's just, for once be slightly linear and just start there. We won't stay there. We won't be linear after this, but let's get on in there.
Well, in that case, the first thing I want to talk about with regards to this is Bill Irwin as Su'Kal. Yes. Oh my gosh, he's an amazing actor. I was reading online somewhere he's 70 years old, and
what?
That's what I read, and that's not sourced. I read that in some comment somewhere, so that maybe that's wrong. I'm gonna fact check that now, actually. But
yeah,
now that I'm like, oh my god, born in 1950, age 70 years. So the childlike innocence he brings to that character, but at the same time, years of isolation that he brings to that character as well. I was just blown away. Like just his delivery on particular lines when he tells Saru to like wait and then walks away. I was just like, so good. And then of course, jumping all over the episode, the whole end part with him was just heartbreaking. He's an incredible actor.
Yes, very much so. I loved it when he would emphasize certain words like dangerous.
That's one was my favorite.
Oh, I loved that. He was such a performance. Such a performance. And I was just enraptured by him every time he was on screen.
Is what I got from it. Like very theater feeling of that part of it.
Yeah, he's amazing, and I hope this isn't the last we see of Su'Kal, because it would be I wouldn't be upset to check in on him, see how he's doing, because I would just love to see Bill Irwin playing that part again.
Yeah,
Bruce,
I think we will, right? I mean, the way this show ended, this episode ended, we might see him in season 4, at least in the opening.
That would
Perhaps
be cool.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Dan, was it you, Dan, that told me that he also plays Linus?
No, that's
David Benjamin Tomlinson.
Okay. It was Chris Littlefield that told me that, so he was wrong.
No.
Or what?
David Benjamin Tomlinson played the young Su'Kal. The little Su'Kal that we see in the Hollow message well, not the hollow message, but when we see him, how the burn happened was by his mother dying, which I predicted, by the way. And that was actually a shrunken down.
You have got to be kidding me.
I am not. We looked it up on IMDb.
That's incredible. Wow, that blows my mind. I had no idea.
He's a shrunken Linus? Wow.
Yeah. Which explains why we got so much expression from him, because we thought, oh, wow, that's a really great child actor. And then while we were recording What the Future Holds, as I just scraped my microphone, Chris is like, I'm going to find out who that is. And he's like, guys, you're not going to believe this. That's when we found out.
Oh, that's amazing. Speaking of which, we got an interesting question brought up in the chat, which I absolutely agree with. Where is Linus? Where has he been for this last half of the season?
He's in hiding because ever since Giorgio left, he's depressed.
Aww.
And he hasn't come out of his cabin the whole time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And no one is coming and checking
Wellington
in
says
on
too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wellington got that. I mean, it's just, I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
He wasn't even at the memorial. Oh, it's so sad. He just couldn't even bring himself.
Yeah. And it's interesting how Nilsson suddenly disappeared and we have this new person named Lieutenant Ina. Who is she?
No idea. But Nielsen just shows up again at the end. She's like,
and so did Reno.
Time.
Yeah. I was part of the bridge crew, but I wasn't with the bridge crew. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Maybe she was on a bathroom break and someone filled in for her, and that's when everything erupted. And Nielsen just stayed in the bathroom the rest of the time.
Headcanon accepted.
Yeah. Ina was up there giving her a potty break, and that's when Osira took over the bridge, and Nielsen just wisely hid in her stall. And so, well done.
Yeah.
Well
She's
done.
the smartest person on the ship.
Yeah, just like a little cutaway scene. Oh, that's going to be a short trek. There you go. The regulators come in searching for people, and she just like lifts her legs so they're not visible under the stall doors. And...
Yeah. This is driving me nuts. I'm going to move this up again. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Okay, maybe that'll stay for 5 minutes. Whew. It was like in my lap.
We're in the Unready room. This is on brand. This is
This is what we do.
We're not ready.
Never.
So what about the whole cause of the burn? Because I know some people have a big problem with this, and I was a little bit kind of like when it was first brought up. I think the way I put it in my video review was that they did enough like technobabble wallpaper over it that I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I get that. And then, of course, realizing the entire theme of the season and how well that fits into it, I'm like, oh, I'm fully on board with this now. So I don't know. What did you guys think of the whole Su'Kal being the cause of the burn?
Had zero problem with it. I had zero problem with it before I knew the scientific explanation. And when Adira and Culber were discussing it and were basically hashing it out between the two of them, because Adira has a lot of knowledge from all of those past hosts and is kind of like a wonderkind in that regard, knowing things that, they can't scan because all of their equipment was basically disintegrated when they beamed in to that simulation. We don't even know. But I'm like, oh, so yeah, of course, the radiation and the dilithium had an effect on his chromosomes while he was in utero. And so now he has this connection with these things that normally no one would, and had no idea that he would cause such a disturbance with his grief at losing his mother.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, it's a subspace disturbance. I mean, it's something that somebody does to an element that caused this reaction across other elements, and it just so happens that he has that connection. That when he does his cry, it sets off this reaction through the dilithium that crosses It's just a chain reaction across to other dilithium. And then when it hits the dilithium on a ship, and that ship is tapping in a special way into its warp core, it doesn't match, and so it destroys the ship. It's not the dilithium, it's how they were using the dilithium on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I understand it correctly, and maybe I don't, dilithium is there to control the reaction between the matter and the antimatter in the warp core.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like a cooling rods in a nuclear reactor. So that's how I kind of look at it. And if you remove the cooling rods from a nuclear reactor, you are going to have an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually tracked for me, in this fictional set of rules that they've created about dilithium and what it's used for, etc. That worked for me. His cry created a sonic wave in subspace that hit all of this dilithium as it radiated out and just caused this massive subspace chain reaction. That how could anyone have known that, when the burn happened? How could anyone have had any idea
Mm-hmm.
that was how it happened?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting how I'm sure the writers started with something happens to the ships with the dilithium, or what causes the dilithium, and they're backtracking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting how they came up with this concept. Well, let's just say there's this dilithium rich planet, and there's a crash ship, and there's a boy, and he cries like I'm just trying to picture the writer's room when somebody comes up with an idea and everybody else is like, say what? Wait, a boy cries? But it's so different. I don't want the same things all the time. I don't want to be so predictable. I don't want oh yeah, it was the Orions. I knew it, It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, and it's one that no single YouTube channel putting out a theory video is ever going to figure out. So.
No, and that's fine. I think I'm going to borrow from what Dave said, that he likes that they took this horrible thing and made it, number one, an accident, and number two, put a face on it.
Mm-hmm.
Made us sympathetic to this person who accidentally caused this massive thing that just stunted the entire galaxy for over a century. And his grief when he realized that he really did do that, and broke my heart just right in two. So I have zero problem with the explanation. I have zero problem with it being Su'Kal. I thought it was one of the more interesting twists that I've seen in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. And taking into account like what was going on while this was all being written, just like, and I'm not talking about 2020 because that all happened after.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the state of the world for the last, decade.
4 years.
That too, but like the last decade and the last, definite number, a bunch of years, and how the fact that so many of our problems in society, you can there are a lot of causes and a lot of things going on, but I think you can kind of narrow it down to people not seeing things from other people's perspectives, or not being able to sympathize or connect with other people in the meaningful ways that we should. And so I think that was their starting point. I think they started with that theme and then crafted the story around that. So it's this lack of connection. It's this kid losing his last connection to another living being and being left all alone by himself with nowhere to turn, and the grief that caused. And I mean, the immediate grief, of course, of losing his mother, but what that meant for this, over a century of solitude. And then compound that with what we've all gone through over the last year, where we've had barriers put in place to us connecting even in the ways that we have before. Like it's so timely, and I just resonated perfectly, tied up completely perfectly with that quote at the end that just kind of like, I love that. So that really brought me around on everything to do with it.
Yes. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry.
It was Su'Kal's sort of resentment towards the Federation for not coming sooner, and then finding out that it was because of something that he did without realizing it that prevented him from being rescued earlier. That poor guy.
Yeah.
He's really been through it.
Oh, it's tough. Sam Lewis, first of all, thank you so much. Really happy to have brought this season to you, and thank you for watching from the UK. I know it's like hell early in the morning there.
I think it is 2:25 a.m. right now. If I'm correct.
So thank you so much for staying up with us and joining us. I apologize that it's so late. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, and Reinhardt, sorry. Reinhardt 68, great season. Captain Burnham, hell yeah. Thank you so much. Absolutely agree with that. We'll get to Captain Burnham because I have thoughts as well. So that's awesome.
We all have thoughts. We all have thoughts. So many thoughts and things.
So yeah, let's let's stick on. Okay, Brandy.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, let's not leave the Kelpian ship yet. And you were just about to say that, so because there is another thing that I want to bring up, and I'm gonna get emotional again. So there's that moment when Su'Kal is going to turn off the simulation, and Gray freaks out because Gray has been manifested by the simulation. Because, as I have been saying the entire season, Gray is an entity that we have not seen before. It's not just Adira interacting with memories. He is there. He is there. And the hologram matrix recognized him as a life form and created him in the simulation. How great did he look as a Vulcan?
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the moment that Hugh sees him and just looks at him and says, Gray? That was when this just started and pretty much didn't stop for the rest of the episode. But I think that there is just a really important moment that I hope people can appreciate, even though it doesn't necessarily speak directly to them. But when Su'Kal's about to shut off the simulation and Gray is upset because he's not going to be seen anymore, and Adira says, I'll see you. And he says, it's not enough. It's not enough anymore.
He's tired of being stuck.
He's tired of being stuck.
Yeah.
And Culber says, hey, we got you. We will find a way to make you seen by everyone.
That line.
And that just destroyed me, because we need to do that in our society. We need to see trans people. We need to see non-binary people. We need to see people that don't fit into the perfect little boxes that we as a society have constructed. Those boxes are meaningless. They are meaningless. They are just constructs. Throw them away and start seeing trans people and non-binary people. And there's just so much that they go through, and the least we can do is see them, recognize them, validate them, and support them. And this, to me, felt like a shout out to every one of those people who has ever not felt seen. And that just, that they wrote that into this episode is just so indicative of everything that Discovery stands for and everything that Trek stands for. With inclusion and infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And it was just in that one, not even a minute's worth of dialogue. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, this comment says it all for me too. There's that connections theme again, right? Like,
yep.
we need to connect with everyone, and the marginalized who don't have that voice. Ian Alexander's character here, Gray, is given that voice for a very brief time, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And he does have kind eyes. And I love that there's that commitment to making him visible somehow again and interacting with everybody again. I was kind of in my thing. I was like, okay, the mobile holo emitter is 29th century technology. Does Discovery have a few of those? Could they send them on down? But
Yes, the first thing I thought.
absolutely. But then I realized when we were recording the podcast with Bruce, and I think I brought this up there, I was like, wait, that's probably obsolete technology, at least as far as on chips and starbases go, because they have holo emitters everywhere. So they got to figure this out. They got to make that work.
Well, the other great connection to Gray in this is he had an opportunity to actually do something and help them by going through to the edge of the hollow to check on the ship. This was a chance that gave him purpose outside of just being there for Adira. That's all he's there for, is just to be there for Adira. Now he had a purpose to do something, and do something not just to be seen by others, but to help others, to contribute with others. And so having that experience and then having to be pulled away and go back into isolation again, almost like Sakal was in isolation for such a long time. And Absolutely. It is about like that connection of not being alone. That's what I just kept picking up throughout this episode in the season. It's not being alone. And that's why Saru also leaves with Sakal, is to not leave him alone, give him a chance to get integrated in the society and learn how to be with others. And Saru's there for him.
Yes. Absolutely. And Wellington Smith, thank you so much. Hugs back to you as well. Yes. You are absolutely seen. So thank you so much. And so absolutely. Oh, man, this is a heavy episode, and we're not far into it.
That's okay. This might go a little bit longer because there was a lot packed into this episode.
Absolutely. So yeah. I did love that scene, Bruce, that you're talking about, where Gray got that chance to contribute and peek outside, because the radiation obviously isn't going to hurt him in his current form, right? So yeah, that was lovely. And then the heartbreak when they're shutting it down and he's disappearing, I guess. That was tough, and tempered, of course, with what Culber said, for sure. So anything else on the ship, the Kelpian ship, that we should be talking about?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, Zahian, Adira looked like a Zahian. We forgot to mention that part. That was
Yes. Oh yeah. Adira was a Zahian. And I think that they were very careful to tell Blue, don't blink if you can help it, so that we don't have to do the eyelids.
I was watching the eyes the whole time.
I was waiting for it as well. Yeah.
We never actually saw that.
Yeah. I think she could have, though, anyway, because Mihani Ika Halika Po. I'm so sorry. It's
okay.
I apologize.
Okay. I know. And see, I would expect you to do that to me if I accidentally do it. So
absolutely. I think they still could have blinked, because Mihani Ika Halika Po, I was so concentrating on getting that name right, I wasn't thinking. She blinked both ways. She blinked and went like that. So I think they could have gotten away with it, but
but still, we would have expected, if they had blinked, to see those inner eyelids blink, and maybe they just had too much to do. It's just don't blink. If you can't, just don't blink, because there are so many scenes where I'm watching Blue and I'm thinking, they're not blinking.
Yeah, I was doing the same.
I was actually, I was doing the same for sure.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But Blue looks good as a Zahian as well.
Yes.
So I think they could rock that. I think they could probably pretty well rock anything, let's be honest. But
absolutely. Miguel has a comment. While I love the message of these Gray scenes, I have trouble understanding why the writer-director didn't have Gray hug or hold Adira, not even once the entire time he was corporeal. I hadn't noticed that. Is that true? I hadn't noticed.
That we saw. We didn't see that on screen, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So, because there were, I think it was almost more important to be hugged by Space Dad Culber than it was to be hugged by Adira, because, we know of the relationship between Gray and Adira, but Gray hasn't had that interaction with Culber before.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, because the hugs were all Space Dad hugs, and that was that level of acceptance from someone outside of Adira was necessary and wanted. So,
I mean, when they were pretty close there at that end, when they were getting ready to shut down the hollow, I mean, they were kind of like a group hug in a sense. But yeah, I get it. There was no like, we can actually touch each other, we can actually hug. And yeah, we didn't have that moment.
Yeah, well, the way that I see it is that in earlier scenes where we have, like the very first scene where Gray is there when Adira is playing the cello, and Gray comes in close and puts his hands on top of theirs to help them with the bow usage, etc., whatever you call it. I'm not up on stringed instruments and the technical terms. So there is touching that's going on that only seems to happen for Gray and Adira, because no one else can see Gray, no one else can feel Gray. So maybe that's why it was more about touching other people than it was about touching each other.
Yeah, because
that's
Gray's always with Adira. Gray's always with Adira. There's always a connection. Gray doesn't have any connection to anybody, and this is the only chance. To your point, a dad hug at this point is a connection that can't be done when he's back with just Adira.
Yeah, I feel like I understand the missing it and not seeing that in the episode, but it's their bond is so strong that I didn't miss it because it was implied. Like, I just assumed that, and it probably was just something that was cut out or like something like that. It could very easily have been something that was just overlooked in the final cut or whatever.
Yeah, well, when it comes out on Blu-ray, I'll watch all the special features and find out.
I mean, the more I think about this, we could be here all night. I mean, we might be up till 3:30 in the morning too. But what maybe, and this is just something just dawned on me, maybe there's still that weird connection that Adira is having with Gray. Remember, Adira's had some issues with Gray, disappearing for a while and coming back. So maybe the relationship at this point is a little awkward when they see each other.
Well, it is fairly new, because basically episodes 11, 12, and 13, for the greater portion of those episodes, that is all taking place on the same day. And so this is right after Gray has finally reappeared, and Adira is, and Gray says, "I'm sorry," and Adira goes, "Is that it?" Just like, yeah, you tell him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we have to remember that it's been a week in between each episode for us, but the actual story is taking place pretty much on the same day until after that story is concluded, and we get our after credit sequence. Except it's not. It's just the resolution, and hey, what happens now, and what is the future going to bring, and this is what we're going to start. So
yeah. All right. Well, are we done on the Kelpian ship for now, or
I think so.
What are we missing?
Yes.
Oh, the Kelpian ship, actually, where they turn off the hollow, did that not look, and others have pointed this out, like the sort of nexus of a TARDIS? I mean, there were two of them side by side, but it very much reminded me of the TARDIS interior.
I could see that.
Yeah. There are some people who have been putting them side by side, so have a look online and you might see the similarities.
Yeah, I have heard that mentioned once before. And were you surprised? I always thought that the ship was in orbit of this planet.
No, it had crashed. Yeah,
I didn't realize that it was on the surface.
Yeah, they said in I think 2 episodes ago or
Yeah,
whatever that it was
that it had
crashed on
crashed.
the planet.
Was I the only person that looked like it, that thought it looked like kind of like an Imperial shuttle with its wings up?
Yeah,
I kind of had that feeling too.
yeah.
Okay, glad I'm not the only one.
Specifically kind of Kylo Ren's version,
Mhm.
I found.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah. Kind of reminded me of that. So reminding me of Doctor Who, reminding me of Star Wars. It's all okay. It's all okay.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about Discovery then, the ship, not just the show. So they're at Starfleet headquarters, and of course, Stamets has just been ejected and picked up by Federation HQ. And let's talk a little bit about that scene where he's brought before Vance, because I love that scene, because I absolutely agree with everybody in that scene. Like,
Mhm.
it's conflict, but it's genuine, because Stamets truly believes that what they need to do is force their way back onto the ship and go rescue their people and his family. And Vance absolutely believes he's making the right call when he says, we need to get you as far away from here as possible, because there is, we cannot allow you to fall into Osira's hands and let her control the spore drive through you.
And he says Burnham made the right call.
Burnham made the right call, absolutely. And I love that scene because, the pain is so real for Stamets. And Vance, I have come to just so appreciate as a character who walks this fine line between doing what is absolutely best for the Federation and Starfleet, and going by his morals and his values and beliefs in what's right. And he's such a perfect avatar of that struggle, if that makes sense. I don't know. I can't seem to put it in words that make more sense than that, but that's how I see it.
I feel you. I feel you. That is exactly what I feel. And I have been waiting for this moment for the entire season, because there have been so many people going, oh, Vance is hiding something. Oh, Vance is going to turn out to be a bad Merle. And I have been staunchly saying the entire time, he is not doing anything bad. Oh my gosh, he is just complicated. He has been through some stuff, and he is making the best decisions he can with the information he has and the experience that he has. And I have been proven right on that point, and I have never been so happy for everyone to finally embrace the dad, Merle Vance.
Well, at least for now, in season 4, we could find out.
Don't make me come over there. Do not make me come over there.
That's what season 4 is all about, is Vance doing the wrong things.
There you go. Yeah.
Vance is a great character. And Dan and I were talking about this earlier, which is kind of jumping ahead just a little. But when Burnham's on the bridge talking to him on the view screen and he's done with her, he just swipes like to sign off. I love that part.
That was terrific.
He was so angry because he knew she was right.
Mm-hmm.
He knew she was right, and he knew that their best chance at getting Discovery and her crew back was Michael. So, and that made him angry.
That was a funny. I loved that. Like, who is Kovich? Who is this guy?
I don't know, but we're gonna see him in season 4. I know that much.
I do have to admit, I hadn't really thought this before. Other people have suggested it, but there was a few minutes at the beginning in that scene where I was like, "Is he the president?" Like the fact that he's standing there, and Vance is giving all the orders, and he's questioning Vance's orders at times, but not giving orders himself. And I was like, well, this is a military thing. Like, Vance would be in charge of it. So just the way he was standing shoulder to shoulder with Vance during that pivotal moment, like, wouldn't the president be there? Or, I mean, technically the president would probably be in some super secure location that, not by a big bay window, I guess. That's the counter argument. But I was like, oh, he might be. I don't know.
It is hard to say, because he does just wear kind of a normal suit. He's not in a Starfleet uniform. He doesn't seem to have any kind of rank insignia. And yeah, that's an interesting argument, and I hadn't really thought about that. I don't know. I loved when he said, they were basically trying to destroy Discovery if they had to. And Kovich is saying, but what message does that send? Because the spore drive is the way that we reconnect and rebuild the Federation. And Vance rightly points out, if Osira gets to those places first, the Federation is done. So he won that little. It wasn't really an argument so much as just a question of, hey, maybe this isn't the right thing to do. And Vance is like, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice.
I mean, I had that brief moment too. I was like, well, is Kovich the president? But it doesn't seem right. I think Kovich is just Kovich. Like,
Kovich might just be Kovich.
Like, I don't even know why they would create him as the mystery president. Like, why even bother doing that? Like, I don't even. I guess I don't know. Yeah, he's just there. He's not a Starfleet officer, but yeah, I don't know why they wrote him in.
I don't care as long as I get David Cronenberg. That's all I care about.
That's really there for that reason.
Oh man, I'm loving, by the way, all of the like speculation in the comments, like the really out there stuff. I'm loving. What if Kovich is a TOS Klingon?
Could be.
I don't know why that one really makes me smile. It's great.
I don't know if he's swarthy enough to be a TOS.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so jumping kind of to where you were talking about, Bruce, Burnham does convince them to let Discovery go, basically to prevent Discovery being destroyed. This is shortly after the fleet from Navarre arrives, which was cool. It was a moment I was expecting. I kind of wanted to see some Kowat Milat butt kicking, but that was not to be.
No.
We just kind of see this faceless fleet out there that shows up, and their role basically is to back Osira into a corner so that she allows Burnham to talk with Kovich. But then they just kind of chase the ship for the rest of the episode. So they served their purpose, but I kind of wanted to see a little bit more. But of course, this episode is so packed with stuff that I also get it. So
yeah, well, the thing is that it wasn't just about not getting Discovery destroyed. It was about not getting the rest of the ships destroyed, because Osira was going to detonate torpedoes with all of those pesticide containers, which would have just sent shrapnel absolutely everywhere and really have done a lot of damage to the fleet. And so she was trying to prevent that, because she believed that she could retake the ship as long as the spore drive wasn't working and they had only warp to get out. So that was her plan. It's okay to let us go. We don't have spore drive, so this gives me time to figure out a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. We get Voyager taking the lead on the fleet here, which I thought was a lot of fun. And we actually get to see it a little bit. The VFX shots, I love them in Discovery, but it has been a little hard to kind of see the ships and make out how they're all shaped and stuff. So I did appreciate some of those fleeting shots of the fleet. That's interesting. That we got in this episode, though.
Yeah, I saw, if you have the closed captioning on, there's one part where there's actually audio is heard on the Discovery bridge from Voyager, and it says it's from Captain Harry Kim.
No, it doesn't, because I always watch with the subtitles on, and that did not happen.
I was hoping that he still.
No,
I was hoping by this time Harry got promoted, but I guess not.
No, Harry's dead by this time. Harry died quite a few centuries ago, so, and that's okay.
In the Nexus, he could have been brought from the Guardian of Forever. You never know. Q could have put Harry back here.
Listen, guys,
nobody's gonna go for that.
I'm just glad Riker didn't show up to save them at the end.
That's every new Star Trek series now, right?
and Adam Mardero mentions Didn't follow the Picard and Lower Decks trend of the hero fleet warps in, and specifically Riker in charge of the fleet. I was like, is that going to happen?
Yeah, but you notice Riker shows up on every Star Trek series since TNG.
Mm-hmm.
Every one.
Every single one.
Except for Discovery. Yeah, the actor directs it, but we have to have Riker show up on Discovery.
There's got to be a way. Maybe in holographic form? I don't know.
Maybe when they try to use the holo for Gray looks like Riker momentarily.
Just for a split second. Whoops. Let's
No, here's what I want. I want somebody on Discovery to need to make a big decision, and they go to the holodeck and relive a TNG episode while they're pretending to be one of the people in TNG so that they can actually interact with the people. And then everybody is acting completely out of character, and it becomes an episode that we're just like, yeah, none of that happened in that episode, but okay. It was just, basically holodeck fan fiction more than anything else. I'm sorry. I'm just being really mean about These Are the Voyages.
You know what would be actually pretty cool is if they did have like a little Easter egg scene on a holodeck and they actually use footage from that episode of Enterprise and insert a Discovery character in place of Riker's character as if they're playing that same holodeck program.
That'd be great.
Oh.
That would be so
cruel.
We are. But yeah, just get some Riker in there anyway. It's just somehow, just as a holo, something,
Absolutely. Marg, thank you so much. 1470. I see the 47. Very clever. Happy 2021, my friends. The Dems won Georgia. We have hope for a positive and productive future. So calling out your home state there, Bruce, of Georgia.
Being here in Georgia, you're welcome. There you go.
Excellent. All right. So they managed to get away with Osira in charge of the ship, and we get the scene in sickbay, which I want to talk about with Aurelio at first. And okay, I'm gonna do a little mini rant about Osira in this episode, and Bruce knows my feelings on this because I loved her last episode. I was like, she's got dimension, she's got like agency, she's working for her people seemingly, and all this stuff. And I feel like that just kind of gets thrown out the window in this episode. Even if she was just paying lip service to that, I would have loved to have seen more of that, like in the way that truly bad people self-delude themselves into thinking they're doing the right thing. I would have loved to have seen that even, but it feels like that just kind of gets thrown out the window for the sake of the mustache twirly villain doing bad, evil things in this. And again, I understand there's only a certain amount of time to tell the story. You can't put all of the nuance in that you necessarily want to. All I'm saying is I missed that from last episode because I really enjoyed that last episode, and it's missing in this episode, which made me a little sad. Still enjoyed it, but yeah.
Well, it goes back to what Stamets and Aurelio were talking about in episode 12, that Osira has done things that have looked good for her and have looked good for the Emerald Chain. But when it gets down to brass tacks, brass tacks is the phrase, brass tacks. She is and always will be a petty criminal dictator. And that is always what I've seen in her. And I was not surprised by anything that she did in this episode because it was what I expected her to do. The moment that someone is no longer useful to her, they're gone. She doesn't care about anyone but herself and her power.
And you said something really interesting there, which is exactly the problem I had. You were not surprised by anything she did in this episode. Neither was I, and that made me sad.
Yeah.
And I will backtrack a little bit on something I said, because there is one little part where we get a little bit of that like self-delusion where she says like, I tried with Admiral Vance and
Yeah.
couldn't make it happen. And she does for that moment act like the put upon victim there. And I'm like, okay, there it is. There's the self-delusion, just a little hint of it. So they did sneak it in a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. She never would have tried the peaceful solution if she had dilithium.
Exactly.
She only did it because it would get her what she wanted. She did not expect Vance to pull the rug out from under her and be smarter than she was. And so that made her angry, and she reverted to the person that she actually is.
Yep.
Which, you know, it was all just a front.
Exactly. But the best villains, of course, believe that they're the heroes of the story. And that's the little hint of it that came out towards the end of the episode, which I was like, oh, more of that. You know, like Gul Dukat, for example, always believed he was the shining example of leadership that Bajor needed, right? And that to me was what made him such a compelling villain. And that to me was what made Osiris such a compelling villain in the last episode too, was that she was able to believe that like she's being selfless and I'm in a charitable mood and like I'm doing all these things. And yeah, when it comes down to it, of course she's going to revert to what she is because that's what she is. But I did love that she was playing with the nuance a little bit. And there just wasn't time in this episode, I think, to play with that as they
I would have
did
liked to
last
see
episode.
more of that, a little more of that in this episode for sure. Because it really was like, okay, it's the last episode. I have to win and destroy everything. That's how it was coming across. I would have liked to see maybe her saying to the point about dilithium, even saying to Burnham, I need this information to not just save my people, but I could even save the people in the Federation. Like, you're almost to a point where you're like, ooh, maybe she really does have good intentions, but Burnham's going to point out to her, but you're doing it the wrong way.
Yeah. And I think even in that situation, Burnham's going to be like, yeah, bull.
Yeah, I'm not believing it. I don't know if I can trust you to do it, whatever. But yeah, something like that. I would like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I understand that, but see, for me, it never translated for me that she was actually doing any of this to benefit anyone but herself.
No, of course not. And I've never argued with that.
Yeah, it's just to me, she's been a mustache twirling villain from the beginning, and that never changed for me. Even with the last episode, that didn't change for me. I'm like, yeah, you're saying all this stuff now, but I know who you really are, honey.
Yeah, would have been great if she would have said, I could get so much gold pressed latinum for this dilithium.
And I think the point I'm trying to make is not that they changed her character. And they didn't change her character. I believe her character has always been like that. Like I said, it's just that she was trying to convince other people that she wasn't, and may have even convinced herself a little bit. And I liked that. I enjoyed that.
Well, yeah, it all goes back to what Tilly said to her in episode 11. Is, see, now you're calling me a fraud because deep inside, that's the way you feel. So that was a big, big red flag of, hey, don't trust anything this lady says.
No, absolutely don't.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wouldn't have worked. But now I wish it was Tilly that killed her. It wouldn't have worked, but it would have been great.
You know, it's funny. I've seen a bunch of stuff online about regrets of who killed who. There's people that also wanted Tilly to kill Zara because of what happened in episode 2. Tilly was too busy. She couldn't just run around the ship killing all the people. You got to farm that out to other people.
Yeah, it's okay. Osira pronounced his name really weird. Zare? What? She pronounced his name Zare. I'm not kidding. Go back and watch the sick bay part. Because she calls him Zare. And I'm like, okay, you're doing the weird accent thing again. And I don't like it. So it just takes me out of her performance. And I have no problems with Janet Kidder at all. I think actually she played the role really well, but the accent just kept breaking that believability. I couldn't suspend my disbelief. It's like, oh, she's sounding like Julie Andrews and Mary Poppins here for a second. And the next second, she's just back to her normal apparent accent. I don't get it. I don't understand what was going on there or what they were trying to accomplish with that. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, it's just something I never really noticed. And I don't know if I'm just not hearing. I don't know. She sounds like somebody from Tirana to me, but maybe that's my Westerner just hearing like all those people from Toronto all speak weird. But
well, see, for instance, at the end of episode 12, when we're doing the recap for right before episode 13 starts, and it shows her talking to Vance, and she says, "There's a deal to be made here." And then later we see her back on Discovery, in the episode proper, and she says, "Get us out of here." So is it here or is it here? Make up your mind.
I've noticed that, yeah.
okay.
Stuff like that is what drives me nuts. It's like pick one or the other. Just pick one or the other.
Yeah, but
all
she's
over the
lived
place.
in so many different places. She's picked up so many different accents, and depending who she's talking to, the accent starts to change, and it's just whatever,
I would buy that, except I don't. It's just like, you would have to be in a room full of people speaking with that accent in order to start falling into that accent. But, that's...
picture, she takes over the Discovery, and she's like, all right, I'm the captain now, and she sits in that chair, and she's like, giddy up, let's get going. And it's just what she does.
Maybe there's an outtake of her doing that. You don't know. I want to talk about Michael killing Osira, because that was weird. I mean, what was that thing that she got pushed into? It was obviously some kind of programmable data, but what was it?
Yeah.
Matter, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, but
this was an issue. Just to pick up on that thread just for a second, this was an issue that I shared with Jessie Gender, and she mentioned in her video as well, which is like, we as the audience have no idea what the stakes are in that moment when she gets pushed in. It's like, is that bad? Why is that? Like, I found myself not caring, not caring, but just like confused as to what I was supposed to be feeling in that moment, that's not a good thing.
Well, I just thought she's going to get suffocated. I was worried about that. And so then when those 3 shots come out and she comes forcing her way back out of it, and I thought, is Osira dead? Is Osira dead?
Right.
Is she dead? And the person that I am, I would have gone up and just put 3 more shots in her.
I was so glad they didn't have her just all of a sudden jump up, is she dead? Oh yeah, she's dead. She said, oh no, wait, no, she's not. I hate when they do that.
Oh, I hate death fake outs.
Yes.
And I also hate the long protracted death thing, and the really dramatic, oh, now I kill you. And it's just, and they look into the eyes of their killer. And no, it was just really realistic. It's just, bam, you're dead now. Because that's how it happens most of the time. It's just, bam, you're dead now. So yeah, I just thought, oh.
Well, and also, like, Aurelio obviously is not married to Osira.
No, I never thought that
they were married.
No, I never thought that. Never.
Because he didn't seem to be all that upset that when he found out she was dead. He was just like,
he had that brief reaction shot, like, oh, what?
She choked him out and told him that the only reason she'd kept him around is because he was useful to her. And the minute he stopped being that, he'd be dead, basically. So that was just not okay.
No.
So his eyes had been opened and he was done being her little puppet. So
yeah. And again, Kenneth Mitchell, yay.
So good.
It is, again, it's like George Alavezos, which we've seen in scenes in Discovery before, being in a wheelchair. And showing a disabled character is important because not everything, I mean, everybody's just like, well, they can fix that. It's the future. No, there are still things that can't be fixed, even in the future. And it's important to show these things. It's important to represent these people. I don't know. I think we have a person in the chat who actually uses a powered wheelchair.
Yeah, I saw
Correct
that.
me if I'm wrong. Okay. And that must have been extremely powerful to be able to, it's a representation, like how I felt when I first saw Discovery and saw Tilly. And I felt represented in Trek for the first time in my life. It is very, very powerful, and we need more of this. I super, super hope we see Aurelio in season 4, because I really feel like he could, get his wife and kids on over to Federation headquarters and be very useful to them and contribute things. So I just really want that representation to continue, and the diversity representation to continue, because this is still diversity representation.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy that they did it. Kenneth Mitchell is wonderful, and as long as he is still able to do it, I hope that they keep inviting him back.
Yeah, because I remember seeing in a previous season or whatever episode, someone, during the corridor, somebody in a wheelchair going by.
Yeah, George Allen.
Yeah, and then I remember years ago hearing that the design of the Enterprise D bridge, the reason there's ramps was because Gene Roddenberry wanted the bridge to feel that it could accommodate and welcome anybody, and if somebody who was in a wheelchair, they would feel like they can come to that bridge and get around. And so it actually bothered me when I saw Star Trek Generations. They use that same set, but where the captain's chair is a step level up on that set. They redid that. And then after that, we've gotten other bridges with steps and stuff. And I thought, oh, that goes against what Roddenberry's trying to do on the bridge of the D. It was like, make it feel inviting that anybody, even somebody disabled, could walk around that bridge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But, on the Discovery Bridge, I think there are no steps, right? I think it's all just
there's a step onto the captain's chair. I mean,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's really it. Other than that, it's just kind of level. Or kind of. It's kind of like the back seems higher than the front, so it's like sort of like at a slight incline.
I do love that they leave it completely open, that Kenneth Mitchell could come back as Aurelio. He's still there at the end. Jumping way back, to just one thing we were talking about when Osira was killed, and killed so quickly, like you said. I wanted Burnham to be like, difference between you and me is you're dead. Never mind. Sorry.
She said that for herself.
Oh, totally. I just
if she said that line afterwards.
Dead.
Yeah, if she had just said that line, said, wait, why did I just say that? You're dead. You don't even hear me right now. And then just leave.
No, she's been studying the historical record of Captain Janeway, and all her one-liners are in there. So she's like, ooh, that's good. I like that.
Well, there's still brain activity even after death. So
got to get that parting shot in there for sure.
Yeah.
It's like when somebody kills a bug and then they go, oh, I'm so sorry, bug. Well, the bug can't hear you. It's dead.
Well, the bug can't understand you anyway, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Tilly and the gang then, and their efforts to take back the ship. So one thing that I was like a little bit like, Osira, and somebody provided a good reason for this afterwards, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But she could just evacuate all the air in the lower decks immediately and kill everybody. So we do get this little bit of a manufactured ticking clock where they're like, okay, we've got a little bit of air, we can take back the ship and do all this stuff. This one person pointed out in the comments of my video, I think, that like, oh, she's sadistic. She likes to torture people. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But man, did that ever screw up her plans? That was a really dumb move on her part.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's what happens when you're trying to be, a terrible person is that you sometimes make the wrong decision. I think that she was just so into herself that she couldn't possibly lose, that she just didn't consider that those stupid kids down there could possibly actually pull off taking back the ship. And it was instrumental. It was a two-pronged thing because it required Michael to get to the data core and wipe all the systems. Well, not wipe all the systems, but restart all the systems and reboot everything. And it also took an explosion, a chemical explosion in one of the nacelles to disrupt the magnetic field between the nacelle and the strut and knock them out of warp. Because then all of the other ships could catch up, and they'd have a fighting chance again away from Federation headquarters to help keep them safe. No one actually ever states that, but it's implied, that they don't want to be near Federation headquarters when this big battle goes down. So, and I think it's also important to note that both of these actions were carried out by Black women, because Black women have been saving our butts for a very long time. And it's about time they got screen time for it.
Absolutely. And Owo in particular. Wellington. Yeah, I was worried. Anyone else think Owo was going to die? I did. Absolutely. I mean, what Discovery did with this episode was they played into a trope that they've done over and over and over again, and they subverted it, which was excellent. We did, unfortunately, get 2 very quick death fake-outs out of it, which bugged me a little bit, but that's standard. That's fine, whatever. But I'm right with Jessie Gender when she had the dramatic music come up in her video, if you've seen it, where she's like, oh no, Owo's getting character development. Oh God.
So many people have been saying that. It's like, no, we're getting background information. We've gotten background information on Owo before. We had that in New Eden, 2nd episode of season 2.
Well, yeah.
So
but the joke of course being that the episode where we got a lot of background information on Arium was the episode where they killed her off. And yeah, that was the joke there. So
yes.
Yeah. And then the previous episode, or maybe it was the one before, where Book and Michael tell each other they love each other, and then they go off their separate ways. It's like, oh no, the people who finally admit their love, and then they get separated, and then one of them's going to die.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. Book already knew because she talks in her sleep.
That's right.
But it undercut it. That's what saved them. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like that, first of all, that Owo can hold her breath for 10 minutes. That's very impressive to me.
Longer than 10 minutes.
For longer than 10 minutes. Yeah. And when she accomplished her goal and they all then, woke up later, they're like, you did it. And she's like, we did it. I like that part.
Loved it. Absolutely.
Because they are a team. They are a team that worked together to make sure that their goal was met. And honestly, I didn't think that Owo would die even when she collapses, because the Dot was there, and the last thing you see is the Dot reaching out and grasping her arms. And I thought, that poor little Dot is going to get fried just dragging Owo out of there. And and then we get that little scene where Owo says, you dragged me out of there. And the Dot says, it was an honor, and then just kind of expires. And I'm just like, I am crying over a Dot, you guys.
Just for the record, that scene was not where I thought she was going to die. That scene, it's obvious she's not going to die because of what's going on. No, it was the leaving them in the corridor that I was like, oh no, because that's the trope. And it's a season finale. And I'm like, no, don't do it.
Instead the Dot died. But then they fixed
then the Dot. Yeah, then it's fine.
It doesn't necessarily die. It just shut down. So I did love them bringing that Dot back online, and the Owo was there for that. That just gave me little warm fuzzies.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Oh, Sam Lewis. Okay, I've seen this comment a few places, and I definitely see I see them for sure. So Sam Lewis says, wanted an Owo and Detmer smooch when they reunited. I've noticed some chemistry between those two a few times, and they could really be just really good friends, but I think you can read into that if you want as well, that there is another level to their relationship. And I would absolutely not be surprised if that were the case.
I don't know that there's necessarily another level yet, but I think that that is something that might come about in season 4. Because just like when O was talking about how she was holding her breath for at least 10 minutes when she was, before she was 10, because they used to go diving for abalone in these caves, free diving, which means no equipment.
Mhm.
And Detmer goes, I didn't know that, as if she's offended almost that there's something about Oa that she didn't know. So that was a little signal there, but I don't think that they have taken this relationship to the next level yet.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
possible that they will.
Well, and if it is something like that developing, Detmer should really watch out because, Dot is coming into the game now.
I love it. We do know from character backgrounds. So David Mack wrote a lot of the character backgrounds for these characters when he wrote the first Star Trek Discovery novel. And they used his little bios that he wrote up when they gave them to the actors to kind of learn more about their characters. And one of them was that Detmer is bisexual. That's part of that, and Canadian apparently. So that's kind of cool. So that's in there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And I've known that. I've actually known that since, right? I think I found that out during season 1, if I remember correctly. I hadn't remembered that it was Dayton Ward that had actually written those.
David Mack, sorry.
David Mack, sorry.
I might have said Dayton Ward.
No, you
David.
said
No,
David
you
Mack.
didn't. You said David Mack. You said
Yeah.
David Mack. The thing is that they both wrote Discovery novels back to back, and their novel titles are also similar, and so I mix them up all the freaking time. I'm sorry. I love them both. And I'm sorry. I'll just stop talking now.
No, God, no.
Well, no, and the thing is, I mean, he may have written their backstories, but the show doesn't have to follow those either. So
No,
that's true. It's not canon until it's on screen, but
right.
Yeah, but they did
fair.
give them to the actors. So
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so I did read up on the diving for abalone and stuff and that is absolutely true backstory, that there are those people that are part of that culture that do the deep dives for that and hold their breath for incredible lengths of time, which blows my mind. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really nice little real world. Also, it's very subtle, and I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but I caught it the second time when Owoshikun is giving that backstory after she says, what they do, and she pauses and says, or at least that's the way it was. And she realized, like, the realization that, it's 900 years later. Do they still do that? I don't know.
Right.
I was like, that was a nice little touch. Just a
Right.
really subtle, nice touch.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They just beam them. They don't need to go
Oh,
in the water,
yeah.
Things get
Crazy.
easier in the future with technology, I guess.
Yeah, but they were pretty much Luddites, so that was the whole point. Is they did everything old school.
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe they continued to be Luddites for the next 930 years.
That is entirely possible. Yes.
I bet you that Ancestry.com has a booming business just from the Discovery crew. Like, I think, yeah. Like, what happened after? That'd be families and stuff. Yeah.
And they don't charge for their services anymore.
Huh. That's cool.
In the future, because
in the future, right? I just got that. Yeah, that makes sense. Right. I do wonder, did anybody none of the named characters that we know of have any kids, do they, or had any children?
Not that I know of.
Like, what do you mean? Like, our crew? Anybody have kids? That's what you're asking? Or?
Yeah, I don't think so. None of them left behind any kids.
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, no.
Okay. What's next? I'm gonna leave this up to you.
Oh,
You
I
guys.
know. Turbo lifts.
I knew this was gonna come up. All right, let's talk about turbo lifts.
It's about time. Over 50 years of Star Trek, we finally get to see what the ships are really like inside. They're massive. They're huge. They're Coruscant in a ship. I don't know. First of all, okay, yeah, I think the environment and everything looks big, but I like the idea that the turbo lifts are in a larger environment, that they can move around, that they're just not going through corridors and turbo shafts.
Well, that's the beauty of programmable matter.
Yeah, I like the forming of them as it went along. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I did see somebody point out that in the century before this is set, ships of Earth manufacture had TARDIS-like qualities, as we saw in the Enterprise episode Future Tense. So maybe that was a part of the Discovery's refit, that there's a part of the ship that's bigger on the inside than the outside.
There you go.
Now, what I actually want to see next season, because I think this is a great idea, they're flying around delivering dilithium to all these different planets and stuff. I want them to have a cargo bay that uses that technology, where they like walk in and it's this huge thing and it's just piled to the rafters with dilithium. And they're like, well, yeah, it's bigger on the inside than the outside. That's how we're carrying all this dilithium. So I don't know. That was just an errant thought that I had. So.
Well, see, that's the thing. They don't have to carry all the dilithium at the same time, because spore drive, it's like, oh, we just delivered our last shipment. They pop back into Federation headquarters and take on a new load. It takes them exactly 5 seconds. And then, they're off to another planet because spore drive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, still, it would explain the turbolift thing is what I'm saying. So
no, I totally get it. It's just... Yeah. Was anyone else sorry to see Zara fall to his death? I cheered, actually.
No, I was like, it's about time.
Yeah. As soon as he said
that
something about grudge, I'm like, oh, you're doomed. I mean, I knew he was doomed before that, but like, I was like, oh, this is when it happens then. Cool.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the first time that I watched it, of course, I was watching with Dave, and after he insults Grudge and Book dispatches him, I said almost in the exact same time, she's a queen.
Yeah.
I just wish his death would have lasted a little longer than just falling.
You wanted him to suffer more
a little
than
bit. I give him like Osira. Yeah, I'm the Osira of this show right now, I guess.
Well, he did have the same kind of death that one random person in Titanic had, where, do you remember he falls off the back of the ship and he's screaming and then he hits the propeller? And
Dave brought up the same point in What the Future Holds when we recorded that 2 days ago. He did this same thing.
That's awesome. That's
great minds. And don't say the other part of that as you usually do. Just stop. Just stop there.
But even on the Titanic, there's a big hollow piece in the middle.
Yeah, which they didn't put any watertight doors in, which is why the freaking thing sank.
Darn it. Oh, that was the problem.
That big open area in the middle of the ship. That was the problem. That's why it sank.
So yeah, we get the Burnham retakes the ship with the command codes and all of that stuff and kicks all the regulators off. I loved her issuing of the orders, right?
Like 4 in a row. Just boom, 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 boom. And you hear the thing acknowledge with the chime every time. And she was just on it. And she was like almost in tears by the time she finally got to that last one. Like, I did it. Oh my God, I did it.
Yeah, that was terrific. And then they have to detonate the warp core to take out the ship. And
why not?
Aurelio has the knowledge that Book could communicate with the spores, so they're going to jump out of there. So that was all very handy. I thought that was very clever.
I feel like they've been telegraphing that, and we just were not picking up on it at
Absolutely.
all, and it should have occurred to me long before now.
Yep.
I did really enjoy them ejecting the warp core and it very clangy on its way out.
Yeah.
The sides and sparking. And I'm like, "Is it gonna go off before it makes it out of the ship?"
You know what? Okay. In that big open space of the curve, there should have been like all this like tubing that it goes through into that whole area. before it leaves the ship.
Oh
It
man.
just goes through a series of pneumatic tubes before it's finally shot out of the ship.
And then there's these tubes with water, and Scotty goes by on one of them.
Okay, that would have been funny if, all of a sudden it takes like a left turn, shoots out into that open area. We get the programmable matter making a tube for it as it goes, and then it throws it down. Oh my god.
I will
That's
cherish
ridiculous.
that visual in my mind forever.
That's wonderful. I love it.
Oh, good times.
So yeah, they do manage, of course, to jump away and jump back to the planet to rescue everybody in the nick of time there, which is good. That's awesome. And we get back to Federation headquarters. Saru goes off with Sukal to Kaminar, and man, has that planet ever changed. That was a really cool panoramic view there.
Yes.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to know more. I wanted to see, like, in detail how Kaminar has changed in the last 930 years. I was just like, oh, they've got a city. Look at how pretty that is. And now I can't see it anymore. It was just so quick.
Maybe that'll be a short trek.
I hope so. I would love to see, really see what changes that they've gone through, especially with being part of the Federation. So
I think we're up to about 50 short treks on Bruce's short list of what he wants to see.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like it. I do too. I'm right there with you. Absolutely.
I want to be on the short treks writing team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
Now, there is something I want to bring up, and it's part of the conversation that Dadmiral Vance has with Michael. And he talks about how his daughter, when she was learning math, wouldn't use numbers. She would draw pictures instead. And that is synesthesia. That is an actual thing that a lot of humans have, where they experience reality literally in a different way. And if you want to know more about it, I mean, there's not just one form of synesthesia. There are many forms that fit under the umbrella of synesthesia. I recommend going to The Well podcast by Anson Mount and Brandon Edgens, episodes 45 and 46, where they interview painter Melissa McCracken, and she has synesthesia. She paints songs. She hears colors. And she paints songs. And it is a fascinating conversation to learn about the way she sees the world. And she had no idea that she was different until about junior high. And that was when she found out, oh, you don't hear colors? Oh. Huh. So it's fascinating. And I love that they brought that up in Discovery. And at the same time, there was this part of me that's like, it's 3189 or thereabouts. How can you not know about synesthesia?
Maybe he assumes that Burnham doesn't know.
Okay, yeah, but he was
from the 23rd century.
Yeah.
He was talking about getting upset with his daughter for doing it wrong, for drawing pictures instead of using numbers.
See, that's a preview into season 4, how he's going to be a Badmiral because
he's a Badmiral. There it is. There's the smoking gun. I do also have to say that is how one of my high school teachers, anytime we had anything to do with algebra, he wouldn't use letters or anything. He used pictures. So he had like hand over fist divided by, served mostly to confuse the crap out of a bunch of us, but I see where he was going with it. But I was flashing back to high school math when he said that. And I was like, oh, that teacher. Anyway, Just joking. He was awesome.
Oh, that teacher's watching right now. Hi,
Mr. Glendenning.
Yeah. I love that entire scene because you can see what a burden has been lifted from Vance's shoulders. And Oded Fair plays this scene so wonderfully. And it just, I just love every second of it. Every second of it. And Michael, too, looks unburdened. And I love the part where she says, he tells her that Saru wants her to captain Discovery. And she's like, no, I would really like to wait until Saru is back from Kaminar. And he's basically like, sorry, don't have time for that. I need an answer now.
Thank you. Because that was that little moment when she's like, well, I'd rather wait for Saru. I'm like, oh, they're going to drag this into season 4. She's
exactly like last season. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, no, I need an answer now. And I'm like, you go. Yes.
Awesome.
I need it now. I don't want to.
And the way he says it, he's just like, I need an answer now.
You know?
And then we don't actually hear her answer, but we know her answer when she comes onto the bridge. And I'm just like, and it looks like Tilly is still first officer and is now wearing a science uniform.
Yes, Dan has the story behind that one.
So this is interesting. The original, when they filmed it, she was wearing red, but they apparently recolored it in post to blue because apparently, according to TrekCore, who was posting about this, they wanted to leave their options open as to what to do with the characters next season. So if she were wearing red, she would unambiguously be the first officer next season. They're apparently keeping their options open, and so they recolored it blue, the teal color, so that they weren't painted into a corner if they decided to do something different. So that sounds a little negative, but it was their intention initially.
But there's more.
And apparently they're just leaving their options open.
But there's more, Dan. Tell her about what your sleuth investigation did when we were recording today. You went back to the video because I was saying I predict she'll be promoted to lieutenant, and you saw that it looks like she has the little stripes for lieutenant on.
Yeah. So her rank indication. And I just, like, for comparison's sake, looked at Owo, who we know is a lieutenant, and she has 2 bars. Tilly, 2 bars. So she is a lieutenant now as well. So that's excellent.
Yes. It's just interesting because, she was on the bridge at Saru's old station from when he was first officer. So
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe. I would be fine with that. I'll tell you what, though, I don't like these uniforms. I just don't. Maybe they'll grow on me, but right now it's just no.
See, the thing is, the uniforms look really good. And Jessie Gender pointed this out as well. So this is stolen blatantly from her. They look really good in the bright, pristine white of the Federation HQ. But on that like bronze copper bridge, everyone just kind of like fades into the background with it. So, Bruce, you had a prediction for season 4, though, that you thought with regards to the uniforms.
Yeah, and I also, by the way, since you saw that picture I sent you earlier, Dan, I don't know if you want to show that of Burnham in the uniform. But anyway, I think in season 4, we will see different uniforms because Starfleet is known to change uniforms quite often. And I think these uniforms were made for the set of the Federation headquarters, and this is to show that this crew has now progressed to be with the more modern times of the 32nd century. But then when we get into season 4, Starfleet has new uniforms because this is a new renaissance for the Federation. It makes sense that they have new, fresh uniforms, approaching things in a new, fresh way. So I think we will see new uniforms in the next season.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this was the photo there that
I don't think it fits well. Like when I saw this photo, it just doesn't look right. I mean, I like the uniform, but in this shot, it just the fitting doesn't. The sleeves are too, pushed up or something. Like it doesn't fit.
It's like they're too long.
Yeah,
it's like the sleeves are too long and the tunic is too long and not fitted to her body.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I think this was a temporary thing just for the scene, and we're not going to see these next season.
Yeah.
I hope not, because I do not care for them.
I do
not.
like them. They kind of give remind me of the motion picture uniforms, so I kind of get a little thrill from that gray with the little things.
I don't, because I did not like the motion picture uniforms either.
Right. Well, most people don't. That's why we never saw them outside of that movie.
And did you ever notice in the motion picture how many times Kirk changes his uniform?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He has on like 4 or 5 different uniforms during the course of that film. And I'm just like, what, did you get bored and you just wanted to try on all the new uniforms in your closet? Is that it? They all look like they're wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like that one scene where Decker is in the corridor and you see his bulge. That I don't like that either.
Yeah, the jumpsuit versions.
Yeah.
Those are not good. Oh.
Yeah.
Starfleet, what were you thinking? Oh, Gene Roddenberry, what were you thinking? There we go. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Anyway, but I'm sure that I will get over it. Even if I don't like the uniforms, I will get over it. It's fine. It is not a deal breaker.
No. Yeah. But I really believe we're not going to see this. But I want to ask Brandy.
Mm.
So, what was your reaction when you saw Burnham walk on the bridge and she sits in that chair as captain?
I cried my little eyes out. What did you think my reaction was going to be?
I just wanted to, see if I was right in my prediction of that.
You were absolutely correct. If that's what you chose as your prediction, then yes, you were correct. I cried my little eyes out. So
yeah. And yeah, this is, fulfilling the promise that was made in the very first episode of the entire series, right? Where Georgiou says, I think it's time. I think you're ready to be a captain. And that's the story we've been seeing, the building of a captain over the last 3 seasons. So, and Bruce, you made a good point too in the podcast recording about the timing of this particular promotion in relation to other characters as well.
Yeah, because Sisko got promoted to captain at the end of season 3 of DS9, and Burnham gets promoted at the end of season 3 of Discovery.
Yeah, nice little parallel.
Well, and
unintentional probably, but I like it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to people trying to find something new to whine about, because the series is no longer about a main character that isn't captain.
Yeah, but
it's just
who really believed that we would never see her get to the center seat? I mean, we knew that was a strong possibility.
Yeah, and like I said, in the first episode, they say that's the path that she's on. And I think Brian Fuller and the creators in interviews said the story is ultimately the making of a captain. Like that's what it was initially pitched as.
And you don't want to end the series with her becoming captain because you want to see the making of the captain and then you want to see her be the captain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly what you want to see. And frankly, she has all this potential, and in the first 2 episodes of the series, she is reduced to nothing and has to claw her way back. And the fact that she managed to do this in a relatively short amount of time is just, it makes me happy. And she stumbled along the way. She made mistakes because she's human.
Mm-hmm.
But she still is the one sitting in that chair, and it just
Yeah. And let's be honest, she saved the Federation in season 1. She saved all of sentient life in the galaxy in season 2. And season 3
saved the Federation again.
Discovery in the Federation. Yeah. Can I say how happy I was that the story of season 3 didn't end up being something like all life everywhere is going to die, and just for once the stakes were high, but they were not like artificially ridiculously so.
Yeah.
As much as I loved season 2, I really loved season 2, but the fact that season 2 of Discovery and season 1 of Picard both had like these existential threats to all life everywhere just got a little tiresome. And season 1 of Discovery as well, with the mycelial network possibly taking out all life there as well. It just got a little tiresome. So I'm really glad they lowered the stakes this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was It was a ride. It was quite a ride with ups and downs and twists and turns. And ultimately, I feel like they told me a great story, and I am very satisfied and will enjoy rewatching this season.
And glad that there's no cliffhangers.
Yes. See, that is what they do best. That they have in each season, they have finished off their main arc and then teased or started a new one. And that is better storytelling than this cliffhanger nonsense.
Mhm.
Because season ending cliffhangers are so trite. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. I'm talking to all the television shows out there who still do this crap. Knock it off. Take a page out of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Discovery, finish off your arc, and start a new one. You will get your people back to find out how that new arc is going to go. You don't have to play tricks.
Right.
Rant over.
All right. Well, favorite thing of the episode for me, I gotta say, is Lieutenant Sahil at the end. I was so happy to see Adil Hussein back in that role. That was fun. And quick little shout out to the representative of Trill and the president Tarina from Navarre appearing, and Saru being there for Tarina arriving, because I'm still shipping those two. So yeah.
Yes, I agree. I even said today, look, Dave, they're going to be able to spend some time together. And here's something that that Dave told me when we were recording What the Future Holds, is that when someone, I hope Dave will remind me exactly later if I mess this up, but I believe it is in Hinduism, but I'm not entirely sure, that when someone greets you like this, with the hands pressed together like this, they are acknowledging the divinity inside you. So when someone greets you like this, it is an extremely respectful and beautiful symbol. They're saying, I recognize your divinity. Instead of just saying hello. And that's just, I had never known that. And when I found that out, I'm just like, oh, that makes that even more beautiful. I love that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. Very cool. So do we want to go with final thoughts and possibly a rating for this episode in our ridiculous rating systems that we make no sense?
Mm-hmm.
Brandy,
I was right. Dave says it is a Hindu greeting, so thanks, darling.
Nice.
I loved this episode. I cried through most of it. Basically, from the time that Hugh could see gray, I was crying from that point on. It actually hit me even harder the second time that I watched it, because I wasn't concerned with knowing what was going to happen next and could just watch the episode. And it was even more powerful that time. So I loved this season. I loved this episode, and I feel about it the same way that Michael feels about sitting in that captain's chair as a captain for the first time.
That's an awesome rating. Absolutely.
Yes.
Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot of the same ways. It really gave me everything I needed for the season finale from this arc of season 3. It answered all the questions I wanted. The performances were all there. The directing was excellent. The scenes, there's a lot of action, a lot of things going on. Sometimes fight scenes go a little too long for me, and a lot of other things, and including in this, but that's fine. But yeah, I really liked it. I like how it ended. I love how there's hope for the Federation, and Michael's the captain, and I'm curious to see how this plays out then in season 4. So it wasn't like the best season finale. I wasn't necessarily on the edge of my seat, but I was definitely like locked in and loaded watching this episode. So I would say, oh my gosh, I'll give this one about 83 occupied turbolifts out of 100 that are flying around the interior of the ship. Because there's a lot of those things flying around, so people are on the move quite a bit on a captured ship.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think with pretty much everything everybody said. Every time I've watched this episode, I've enjoyed it more and more. So I was a little bit I wasn't completely 100% blown away by it when I first watched it, but I also didn't hate anything about it. I was like, oh, that was a very satisfying ending to the season. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good episode. The more I watch it, the more I love it, because I think the underlying themes become more apparent, and I'm just like soaking up the nuance as opposed to the just what's in front of your face kind of thing. The action scenes, I do feel like it's kind of like, oh, it's a season finale. We've got to have some big action set pieces and stuff. Those are some of my least favorite things about Star Trek, but they're still a part of Star Trek, so I'm accepting of them. So I'm gonna give this episode a really beautiful wide grin as Burnham says, "Let's fly." That's my rating for this episode. So
Sweet. One thing I want to mention, I forgot to mention. Remember when she at the end and everybody's kind of hugging it out? Stamets is giving Burnham some looks when she gets on the bridge, still kind of looking at her like he hasn't really resolved his issue with her. But I think there's more to it than that. I think it's job security that he's worried about, because now that Book can do the spore drive, Stamets is like, she could kick me off the ship and she doesn't need me much anymore.
I didn't get the feeling of that, but I did.
No, I'm kidding, no.
No, I did predict that it would not be an overnight fix for the relationship between Stamets and Michael. And I kind of feel like that we may see a bit of Culber going, why are you being such a dick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Culber's like, hey, I was the one who was like, life is on the line and I'm cool with it. She came and got me and everything's good.
Yeah. I chose to stay there, buddy.
Yeah.
I chose to stay there.
Right.
So I feel like we might get a scene like that in season 4, early in season 4, where he's just like, stop being a dick.
I'm glad you brought it over, because there's one thing I do want to say. I haven't said this anywhere else, but in the last probably 5-6 episodes or whatever, Discovery, especially this season, I thought if I ever see a spinoff from Discovery, I want the star to be Culber. He's like, I think he would be a great lead in a series.
Oh, wonderful. I absolutely adore Wilson Cruz, and I love that he got to bring this character such great moments this season and really put Culber on the map.
Yeah.
To one of your earlier points there, Bruce, too, I predict there could be a bit of professional jealousy as part of the storyline for season 4 between Book and Stamets.
Oh, I think so.
There could be definitely a possibility.
Yeah, well, Detmer already felt that way. You know, they had that little spat during the Thanksgiving dinner. So, yeah, there's already that sort of feeling, because I know that he loved being the only person that could do what he does. And now there is more than one.
And I think Detmer's going to date Book. It's going to get really interesting. She's dating a lot of people on that ship.
That would be, that's one last thing I wanted to bring up. So Book's now the captain's wench. That's super cool.
I like it. A kept man.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Excellent.
And his cat.
She's a queen.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
Well, why don't we leave with where everybody can be found? Oh, I do want to make a quick note about the show in general. I know we had talked about maybe doing a season wrap-up type thing. I am going to say I'm going to take next Saturday off. It is my wife's birthday. So,
yay, happy birthday.
So. You should take it off.
So we will not be here. Well, I won't be here. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so we'll talk. We'll figure stuff out. But yeah, don't expect us here next Saturday. I'm taking a vacation.
Well, you should, sir.
Excellent. So, Brandy, where can people find you when you're not coming on my channel and being all awesome talking about Discovery?
And just crying all over everything. That's what I do best, you guys. It really is what I do best. I can cry on command. 'Cause there's always something I can think of that will bring the tears. Probably the easiest thing to do is just go follow me on Twitter at Brandywine12 because I will post things that I am doing. There's other podcasts, Trek podcasts I do about Deep Space Nine, Strange New Worlds, and Discovery. And I do a podcast with my husband called The Dark Corner, where we talk about nerdy stuff and pop culture from a sort of a darker perspective. And dark does not always mean evil, and stuff like that. So just keep up with me there, and you can find out what I'm doing. Just so everyone knows, if you didn't see Infinite Trek today or won't be listening to the podcast when it comes out this week, we are taking a bit of a hiatus until probably early February, and then we'll, of course, make announcements as to when that's coming back and what our plans are there, because we basically started the show and then went straight into Lower Decks and then into Discovery. So we haven't actually done an episode where we can just talk about anything Trek. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Now the whole Trek world is our oyster, and it's kind of overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Just follow me on Twitter. So thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bruce?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Admiral_Rex, the little underline in the Rex. And of course, I'm on Positively Trek with Dan. We just recorded episode 82 today. So we're getting closer to 100. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
Those aren't available. Don't ask. That was
they're not available. My wife Nikki made this for me, which is wonderful.
Isn't that beautiful?
But if people want them, we could maybe figure something out. I don't know. I don't know how any of that works. So
yeah, I don't either. So I'm also on this week or this Monday's episode of Open Channel with Chris Littlefield, talking about this episode and reading all the listener comments. And I'm also on this most recent episode of The Janeway Voyager podcast. So, and I'm occasionally on the Star Wars Report. So that's about it.
Brandy, where can Sam Lewis find Infinite Trek?
On Outpost 13's Twitch channel. It's just the word Outpost, the number 13. And you can also find the actual audio podcast on Trek Geeks, or just search for Infinite Trek in whatever podcatcher you use.
Awesome. Yeah. And just message me if you still can't find it, Sam. We'll get you figured out here. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Kertrats, Kertrats, Star Trek backwards, if you haven't noticed that. And yeah, Positively Trek, of course, is the podcast Bruce and I do, as he mentioned. And yeah, it's been an amazing season. It's been an amazing 23 straight weeks of talking about episodes of Star Trek, plus however many weeks before that we did talking about other episodes of Star Trek. Taking a little break, not sure what the live stream situation is going to be, but I have some ideas, not sure yet, but yeah, we'll get it all figured out. Thank you all so much for joining us here and later, and for all of these episodes. It's been a ton of fun, and we'll see you again soon. So have a great night and live long and prosper.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to reach over here and click